And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. You may want to do a check-in on the young people in your life. The CDC has released some disturbing new information. The agency says more kids than ever are depressed. My next guest shares what signs to look for out there if you're a parent or a family member.
Well, Isaiah, it certainly is sobering news to get that report out of the CDC. Here at EverFi, it's something we've been tracking really closely over the last several years. And there's really, the main contributing factor is, students' lives have been uprooted and disjointed as a result of the pandemic. They have experienced more detachment, less relationships with their peers, and they're being drawn into unfortunately, the loneliness that may lead to depression. And that's just been a macro factor out there in schools with young people. And so that's I think at least one of the main contributing factors to this issue.
As adults, many of us don't respect the symptoms or signs we see from young people. So how can you impress upon parents out there, family members and friends, when to know a child is actually depressed?
Well, in many ways, we want to be able to teach these techniques in a lot of the work we do in schools. That's a really important thing for us. And so we look at the main, obviously, caretakers of our children as primarily parents at home, but also their teachers in the classroom. And one of the ways in which we've done that at EverFi is providing mental health resources to schools and teachers and students all across the country, and obviously as well in Houston Independent School District, where we really in the curriculum try to help those students identify ways in which they can support their peers and identify signs that might be concerning. Because our technology is something that can be used both in school and at home, it's also something that parents can utilize and work on and review with their children. And just like students can use with their peers, parents can also use some of those techniques to identify those issues with their students and hopefully intervene soon.
We have seen, John, in the past, the evolving nature of school counselors, but in many instances and in many districts, they've all but disappeared, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, Isaiah, it is a big challenge. And I think it's sort of the double whammy of both the conditions of the pandemic and the state of our staffing amongst school counselors. Right now in the United States public school system, there's only one student counselor for every 500 students.
Wow.
So that certainly does not create—
That counselor's going to need a counselor, John.
Correct, absolutely. Unfortunately, that is the very unfortunate case.
And give us an example of some of this technology that you guys are using in schools that could make a difference to both educators and students out there.
So what we've created is technology that can be used by students in a self-paced way, where they can go through and again, start to identify signs of concern amongst their peers, self-identify signs of concern amongst themselves, and most importantly, be directed to outside resources of support so they can start to talk to someone, seek that support, instead of going into situations where they might be making some very unfortunate choices. We're also really excited because we have a model that works with communities in a public-private partnership way. So the way we're able to make our resources free to Houston Independent Schools is we work with amazing organizations like the National Football League, HCA Healthcare, which is one of the largest hospital systems in the US and operates many hospitals in Houston, and the local club in the NFL, the Texans, have sponsored these mental health resources for schools so that they can utilize them at no cost and they can use them with as many schools, students and families in the district as is needed.
That's excellent, because we have to recognize the signs of depression, or we could have students self-medicating, and eventually that could lead to death. John Champion with EverFi, thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored tonight.